So I'm going to be wanting to hear a lot about this. Hey, folks, it's Sports Talk Jay here. I've got Bull and P from Bluechip Breakdown. Sorry, Bluechip Breakdown. And I know a lot of y'all have probably watched them. And they reached out to me and wanted to come on the show. And I said, absolutely, because I've watched several of their videos and they're very knowledgeable. And I figured they had either been coaches or players. And they both told me they played all the way through college. Let's see, Bull, you played all the way through college at, tell me again the name.
SUNY Albany.
Okay. And P, I believe you said Vandy. So both these guys have played at a very high level. And we were actually talking about a lot of very interesting things. Can everybody hear us real well? Then they'll tell us, Stingray and Slim and all these folks in here. Steve, just let us know down here in the comment, because I know we're live. Yeah, it looks like they're all hearing us. Let's see, K. Curl. Yes. Okay, cool. A little bit of background noise there, but no big deal. All right, cool. All right, so we've got, let's see here. We just got started. Now, we were actually talking about some really interesting stuff. We were talking about NIL money. We were talking about injuries, Brew McCoy. We talked a little bit about Joe Milton. So I didn't want to go too far into that because all of this is super interesting to me, and it will be to you as well. Let's start out with the Brew McCoy injury. Then we'll go into some other things we just discussed. And I was asking these guys if they'd ever seen a fractured, dislocated ankle, and they said they absolutely have seen that. So you guys discuss that a little bit and kind of tell these folks, tell them about this injury, the kind of prognostication or whatever diagnosis of this, and what the possible outcome of it might be.
Well, I can tell you like this. I'm not a doctor, so I couldn't tell you that much about it. But I have seen them, and usually, with players like that, they're out for about like a year, sometimes more. So I mean, it's a pretty, it's a pretty serious deal. Hopefully, he can get back healthy as soon as possible. I don't know, P. Maybe you got something more to add to that.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, it's like you said, it's a lengthy recovery period. He had the surgery. It sounds like went well. And then, probably a couple months out, he'll start kind of walking on it. Eventually, he'll start doing straight line running, stuff like that, and slowly build up to game speed. But I think with those type of injuries, because they're ugly injuries, and I think the biggest piece to that, I feel like the medical field's kind of advanced, and so you can come back stronger, I feel like. But I think to me, it's the mental. It's the mental aspect of it, because it's kind of always in the back of your head if that could happen to you again. So I think that's the biggest thing with these type of injuries is to kind of see how they come back. Once they do come back, are they still the same player after that? Because I mean, it can be traumatizing.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, is this worse than an ACL? Do you think, or about the same?
I would say it's probably about the same. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar in nature to the point of kind of like P was talking about. I mean, it's going to take you out, and you have to work back through it. I mean, it's a long, grueling process. Sometimes you can come back stronger, and I mean, sometimes you come back, or sometimes you don't even want to come back because you have to think about it. I don't want to go too far in depth with this, but those types of injuries, like you can hear it. You know what I mean? Like you can hear it, and it's just like you instantly know. And not just other people, but the person that it happens to, you hear that. So I mean, it can mess with you mentally. Yeah.
So it's a psychological injury just as much as it is a physical injury.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I found that incredibly interesting. We were also discussing NIL, and of course, my position on NIL is that the guy should get paid. I've thought that for a while, and I always tell this story, and I've told it to them. When I lived at Gibbs Hall, of course, I was a golfer, so I never got injured. Nobody ever tackled me and threw me around. And I just remember the guys were always hurt. There was just always, and a lot of times they were pretty bad injuries. I mean, these are guys that normally, can run 4 or 5 40s, and they're barely able to walk. Yeah. And I saw it all the time. And so I'm fine with it. I think they deserve it, given what they're out there giving on the field. And then on top of that, y'all probably have injuries or things that happen to you that you probably still feel, whether it's your knee or your hip, or if you haven't, when you turn 50, which I'm over 50, it affects you.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't think either one of us ever had any serious deals. maybe like some broken fingers or something like that. But just that wear and tear of football, I mean, it's really tough on your body. You was kind of talking about knees. Like my knees ache and stuff. When I
Oh
wake
yeah.
up, sometimes I have like little back problems, but I mean, it's one of those things that you just want to try to stay active to try to work through it. But it is something that I know that we'll both have to, as we continue to grow older. It's just going to get worse. So, like you said, I mean, they most definitely deserve to get paid for what they have to go
Yeah.
through.
And just to kind of add to that too, I remember there was a stat going around when I was in college, which was like 2012 to 2016, um, about the amount of time a football player spends just in his sport, and it's more than a 40-hour week just in your sport. And then when you factor in, you have school, you got to stay on top of your school, you got to get your grades, you can't play. You want to try to maintain some type of social life. So I mean, these guys are putting in so much time and effort, and as you guys said, the injuries as well. I mean, I think they definitely do deserve to get paid, and I don't understand people who kind of have a negative to say about NIL. These kids absolutely deserve it, especially how much money they bring in
Yeah,
to the NCAA.
for
Yeah,
sure.
it's billions. I mean, it's a ton of
Yeah.
money, and there's a reason why those TV contracts for the SEC, they've got a $780 million contract, and the Big Ten's got a $1 billion contract, and the ACC, they're all upset because they're only got a $360 million contract, and they're wanting to get out of that because
Yeah.
that's not enough.
Yeah, it's
All
it's
right.
it's big time money. Now, I thought that I had heard something earlier today that the Big Ten sound like a $13 billion contract or something
Wow.
through like a certain period of time. I
Yeah,
maybe I
it's
misheard
the
that. Yeah,
total it's $1 billion a year,
yeah.
and then they get it's crazy. Like the SEC is 800 and something million a year, and they're upset because Big Ten's got a
I
bigger
would be
contract.
too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so there's
Yeah,
and that's why FSU and Clemson went out so bad of the
yeah,
ACC because they're only getting like 30 some odd $1 million a year, and all the SEC's getting 2 and 3 times that. So, and the Big Ten, so they're upset because they're like, we're just as good as any team out there, and Clemson is a very good team. Obviously, they've got 2 natties in the last 10 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. And the other thing, Bull said you work with a lot of high school players, and this will blow some of y'all's minds when you hear these numbers because we've talked about Nico getting reportedly $8 million and being the #1 quarterback in the country and all that. But I was asking him what is the typical. Now we're talking about a very small number of people, the 5 stars. There's only 25 to 30 a year 5 stars, so we're not talking about your regular NCAA college, and I will ask you that too.
Yeah.
But tell them what a 5 star, in your opinion, is getting offered to come to a school.
Well, so it's actually 4 and 5 stars. I've heard on a very consistent basis anywhere between 7 to 10 million over the course of their time at a school. So that's for 3 to 4 years, and I mean that's been consistent at different schools in different states and everything. So I mean they're
Isn't that
making
amazing?
pretty good money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Over a million
that's
bucks a
pretty
year.
solid, man. Hey,
Yeah.
I wish that I could go back and just start all the way over.
I
I
know,
bet
man.
y'all.
Me too. We missed
Wish
out.
I
How
could
much?
start
How
all the
much
way
did
over.
y'all get NIL money? Did y'all get
We didn't
No,
get
nothing?
nothing, man.
Just
nah.
food.
So when I was there, I think they started giving us like I want to say like 200, like $100 a week or something like that. But that
Yeah.
was towards my senior year, so I mean that
Yeah,
was it.
stipend.
Yeah, a little
Yeah,
stipend. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I remember the
It's
only
way
thing
more.
I got in college was we got free golf and a place to stay, and then I think we got $10 for a meal or something every now and again and stuff
Wow,
like that. But I mean,
that's
it
crazy.
was fine. I wasn't out there throwing my body out there to get hurt. I didn't have to worry about that, and it was I would have done it no matter what. But
For sure.
football is much more of a job. Like I said, I saw what those guys went through. Here's the other thing. I didn't have to get up early in the morning, go to the gym, work out for 2 or 3 hours and lift and do all the crap that the football and the basketball players had to do. I mean, they had to be in such good physical condition.
Yeah,
And then, they'd go out to, I remember this well, they'd go out to a bar and stuff, and somebody get smashed, and they were like messing with him. I was like, dude, he will kill you. He will put you in the ground. What are you doing? Just get away from, just don't even, oh, he ain't nothing. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, get killed. Get killed.
Yeah.
You have no idea what's going to happen to you.
yeah,
Dangerous game.
yeah. It is.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
and then too, Jay. I mean, obviously golf. I'm sure that you had to put a whole bunch of time into that too. Just with, I mean, I know that you had to practice a lot. Golf is not an easy game either. Now, don't try to Don't try to sell yourself short on that.
Well, it's mentally a very difficult game. It's probably the toughest game mentally. Physically, you just got to grind it out. You've got to hit a lot of golf balls and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't like to compare it to the other stuff because, well, now it has changed a lot. If I was there today, I would be in the gym every day because now you've got to hit the ball well over 300 yards to play at the highest level. When I was there, if you hit it 250, you were fine. That was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And we didn't understand the physics of golf the way that they do now. I mean, I probably hit it further today than I did in college. Just that's only because I understand the game way better, and my swing is way better as far as understanding how to properly hit the golf ball. All we were taught was low and slow, take it easy, make sure you hit it, and plus our golf clubs sucked. I mean, I had wooden clubs in high school. Wooden clubs. And now, I mean, the drivers are this big and they're made out of titanium and you can't miss. I was hitting a little wood that big and you had to hit it in this little sweet spot. So it was very different. But anyway, I won't spend I know folks don't want to hear a bunch about golf, but I want to talk to you guys. This is fun, man. This is great. I want to talk to you guys about Joe Milton. Okay. He has been at the epicenter of everything that everybody's been talking about for the last 12 months almost, ever since our guy Hendon Hooker got hurt, which was and he spoiled us to death for 2 years, spoiled me to death.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew it the whole time, but I kept hoping, well, maybe it's just Josh Heupel's offense. Maybe we can put anybody in there. And Joe does some really good things, and then he does some things where you're like, dang it. What is give me your opinions on Joe Milton?
All right. So first off, obviously Joe is very physically talented and gifted. I think where he needs to work on his game is in his pre-snap reads. That's something that Hendon Hooker was really, really good at, right? So if you look at any of Hendon's throws, I don't care if it's a 5-yard pass or if it's a 50-yard bomb, he gets the ball out early and it's almost got like the exact same touch. So he always threw a very catchable ball, but he would have to throw his balls earlier than what Joe's having to do, or than what Joe does. So Joe kind of like waits to the last second, throws it. I think that's part of the reason that he zips it so hard, because I don't think that he's doing a good job of reading his keys pre-snap, which means that he doesn't see what the defense is trying to do and have a good idea of where he wants to go before he snaps it. Hendon was really good at that. And Joe's going to have to, for sure, because teams are about to start stacking that box, stopping us from running. So we're going to have to throw the ball down the field in some one-on-one situations. And it's critical that Joe can figure out where those openings are early and be able to hit them with a good touch pass. Wide receivers have to be able to make catches. That's pretty much what I see.
Yeah. I think hitting down the head, Bull, and I feel like Hendon was just so accurate. Like, that was the thing. Like you said, Coach Day, he did spoil us because he was so accurate. He rarely missed open guys. And as I was watching it live, I just felt like, man, we're so fortunate to have a quarterback that can hit open receivers. Because we saw with Garantano, under Pruitt, he would miss those type of guys. And Joe, he's been more accurate this season, I feel like, especially on the deep ball. But he's still not as consistent as Hendon was, which I guess that's a tall ask. Hendon did spoil us. He was a phenomenal quarterback. But I think Joe's been solid overall. He's made some pretty good reads. Can definitely improve his pre-snap management, making sure he's protected and knowing where he's going to go before the ball snapped. But overall, I think we can win with how he's playing. I don't think he needs to really do much more than what he's been doing. I think really the receivers need to help him out more, and O-line needs to protect better. But I think he's been solid this season.
Yeah. And then too, just to add to that, I also, obviously early on in this season without Coop, that offensive line was just inconsistent, and I think that's putting it very nicely. Now that Coop is back, I think that's going to help Joe out a lot, because I kind of feel like he may have been having to, make the offensive line calls too. And now that Cooper's back, I think that at least he can take care of that portion, and that's just a little bit less for Joe to have to process. As long as he just plays with confidence, and if he can, again, pre-snap is going to be huge. He's going to have to know what's going on and not have to look over to, Coach Heupel every single time. If he can do that, and if he can just make the correct throws, run it when he needs to, we are going to be fine. I think that the offensive line takes a gigantic leap forward with Kupak. And, we had to find somebody that can kind of do a little bit of what Brew did. I don't know if we'll get into that, but I think that's a really tall task right there for us.
Okay. I definitely want to ask you about two things.
Yeah.
Number one, catchable ball. How real is that? Because I've heard so many people say, as long as it hits you in the hands, you should catch it. And I'm sitting here going, if it hits you in the hands at 100 miles per hour or 80, there's a difference. Y'all talk about that a little bit because you've played the game. How important is a catchable ball?
Well, it's critical, but now I do also want to say that if the ball hits your hands, you should catch it. Somebody throwing the ball too hard is really not a reason for you not to catch it. Especially if you practice with them every single day, you have to get used to it.
Okay.
So, I want to try to nip that. People keep throwing that out there. Our receivers have got to make catches. If it hits them, they've got to catch it. Now, with that being said, I don't think it's so much of how fast the ball's coming. And P, maybe you can help me try to quantify this. Some people's balls are just a little bit heavier. They're just harder to catch. Usually, if you're getting a pass from a left-handed quarterback, it's that opposite spin of what you're used to that makes it hard to catch. I don't know if that makes sense, but it can be something little like that. It's just about having a good touch. And I don't really feel like Joe Milton has that touch. I don't know if it's something that he can get. I'm not trying to be negative, but just honestly speaking, I don't know if he has it, period.
Yeah. Hendon has such an extreme touch on his ball. Maybe that's from playing basketball, but he just has such a touch. It's almost like he caught it for you with how he threw it.
Oh, my gosh,
But just like you guys both said, if you're practicing with somebody every day since the spring or since last winter, you would expect that there's to be used to the velocity of Joe Milton's passes. But I do think the placement of those passes as well is a huge factor in making it catchable. Joe's been kind of throwing it behind guys a lot. You were throwing it behind somebody at 100 miles an hour. That's a tough catch, especially for like a tight end or somebody like that. So he's just got to place it better and also be aware of who he's throwing it to. You can't throw it the same to your running back as you do to, your Brew McCoy or your Ramil Keaton or Squirrel White. You got to kind of be able to gauge it. But I feel like that's like we're nitpicking. The receivers at the end of the day, hits in the hand, you got to make the catch. I think that holds true.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm sorry, Jay. Let me also add on to what P just said because I thought that was an excellent point. Ball placement. If you look at the ball, I think it was last week that Chaz Nimrod caught. I think it was on like a slant route. The ball was away from his body. Those are easier for most wideouts to catch. The ones that are more difficult to catch, believe it or not, are the ones right at you. Like the ones come right at your face or right at your body. It's a little bit more difficult for some reason. But if Joe could just, again, that comes from practicing with these guys. He should know where they like these passes. And, that's a tough ask for anybody, but he's got to try to put it where they like it, if nothing else.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to blame Joe. Yeah.
The reason those ones farther away are easier to catch is because you can actually see it better with your eyes. When it gets into your body, you can't really see it. That's the reason.
I was wondering about that because the one that was, I believe it was to Chaz. It was like right there. It was like dead. Yeah, and he didn't catch it. And I thought that should be the easiest. But now having heard what you just said, that's actually not the easiest. That's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay. One other question, and thank you, Wayne, for the $4.99. I appreciate that. And the other question I have is the sideline passes. I'm sure you've noticed there's a lot more sideline passes with Joe than there was with Hendon. And we certainly saw that a lot in the Austin Peay game when they went away from the downfield passes. What's your opinion on that? Is that to kind of get him comfortable? Is that a pass that's easy for him and it just kind of gets the ball rolling and it's almost like an extension of the run play? What do y'all think of the sideline passes?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things that you just mentioned. But I think that the biggest thing, and this is something that we've talked about on our channel several times, we knew coming into this season that this was going to have to be a much more run-heavy team because we knew that teams would try to take away our deep passes. So a lot of times the defense's coverage will dictate where the ball's going to go, right? That's not always a great thing. I think a dominant offense needs to be able to dictate to the defense what they're going to do and then be able to create matchups that way. That's something that we did well last season. this season, kind of, back to your point, I don't know if it's that they don't really have full trust in Joe, trust in the offensive line, trust in anything. It could be a combination of a million different things. But yeah, I think that it's a little bit of all of those things. And Coach Heupel kind of spoke on it too. He said that a lot of that's just part of our run game. So if teams, I guess, are stacking the box, or if they don't have a run favorable look, then they'll just dump it out there quickly and get the ball in the hands to some of their playmakers.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And just to add to that too, I think with Joe Milton's velocity, he gets out there so fast. I think that they like that aspect of the game. You get out to the receiver so quick, he has more time to make a play. And something Jason Swain said that I didn't really think about, and on his show the other day, was that when you get the defense running sideline to sideline like that, and you're going tempo, that really does wear them out. So I think that's kind of part of the game plan, to kind of wear the defense out before you take a shot deep or before you gash them up the middle for run play. So it's kind of works for our favor.
Yeah, I saw Hendon do that a lot. He would try to draw those cornerbacks up with that little pass over there. And every time he did it, I thought, y'all keep sneaking up. Just keep sneaking up.
Yeah,
because I know what's going to happen. He's going to, have a little completion, have a little run play. Next thing you know, they're going to be up there in a millisecond. And they're going to take off. And next thing you know, you've got that wide open guy. And for some reason last year, it happened every single ball game. There would be some guy 20 yards wide open. There was a broken, busted play. And I think that had a lot to do with pulling them up, but also the speed of how quickly Hendon and Coop and all those guys were just like, they were on that ball. And the defense, explain that a little bit as former players, what that does to a defense.
Oh, man. It does a lot, man. Like, as a defender, number one, you're looking at the sideline to get the call. So after the play, you've got to get the call from the sideline. You've got to align. And based on how the offense is lined up, you've got to adjust your coverage. Like if you have three guys to your side instead of two, that changes your responsibility. Or if you just have one guy, that changes your responsibility. And so that's why you see a lot of guys kind of getting mixed up with the crossing routes, because maybe they thought they were in cover three, but actually they should have been manning up with it or something. Like it does a lot. And of course it gets you tired. You're going fast like that. You have no time to catch your breath. You're looking at the sideline to get somebody to come, tap you out. But you have no time to sub. So it plays with defense a lot. It's a great element for our offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I feel like we need to pick up on a little bit more this season. We haven't been doing it too. I mean, we've seen it in some spurts. And it seems like whenever we are doing it, we're getting big chunk plays. So I don't know if it's because we don't know what to do exactly, if we're not all on the same page, if people are tired, but that's something that down this stretch, because we're about to go through a gauntlet of a lot of very good teams. Competition is increasing probably 2 or 3-fold now. So, we've got to get that tempo back going. Guys have to be in shape. And I think that if we can do that, if we can just, again, pre-snap, be in the correct plays, and if people just do like those little things right, I think that we could run these tables, man. It looks like it's it's pretty much up in the air. Nobody looks like a world beater to me. I think that we can go beat anybody, but we just got to do those little things right, man. Tempo is a big key to what we do.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead. Pete. I was gonna say. I think Coop being back has helped the tempo a lot. I think he really gets us lined up, and I think Hendon did a good job last season of like getting guys lined up. You would see him kind of yelling at guys, "Hurry up, line up, line up." And I think the past week or two, we've seen Joe kind of start to take that role. So I think the tempo will continue to get faster as we keep going here.
Yeah, we saw it in the UTSA first half. I thought they were absolutely playing at that level until he tweaked his knee. And I don't know about that injury. We may talk about that in just a second. But that's where I really saw him moving that ball, and they were going quick, and we were just like scoring at will. And I saw it in South Carolina game. But the one thing that I have noticed, and that's why I'd never like it when somebody said, well, he's not good under pressure. The most pressure you can possibly have as an athlete is the very first part of, it's like being on the first tee in golf. Yeah. And it's just, that's when you're the tightest, you're the most anxious, you're the most excited. And he goes in the Florida game and throws dimes all down the field, touchdown. All right. Then the South Carolina game, no problem. So I do not believe that it's pressure that's necessarily getting to him. I think it's some other things. Could have been the offensive line playing a role in that. Could be that, he may not have quite the skill level that Hendon does in certain ways. But I don't think I just don't think he's a choker. I guess I'm just going to say it bluntly. I do not think the guy's a choker. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that this kind of goes back to him knowing what to do. I think that a lot of times he wants to do the correct thing, and maybe he's over processing it some, but that's really what it kind of boils down to. Because back to your point, you see in those opening drives, I mean, we look really good, but it's because those first few plays are all scripted. So he knows exactly what to do. It's probably not a whole lot of audibles or different plays on that first drive. So you just go straight through it and you know exactly where to go. Boom, boom, boom. And if he could just get a little bit better at, I mean, it doesn't take too much. Just be able to see what the defense is in, know where they're weak at, and just throw the ball there or run it there. It doesn't have to be a touchdown every play. Just give us positive yardage, even if you have to run it. And that is my one knock on Joe. But I mean, he's capable of doing it. I just want to see him come out. Maybe, this is something else. I think that after this bye week, we're going to see him play great because they're going to have so much time to kind of go through their script and stuff. I think he's going to go out there and ball out. Might throw for like 330, 340 or something.
Yeah, that'd be nice. That's a great point. He's not as good of an ad libber as Hendon was. If it's not exactly how it was drawn up, he kind of freezes. Whereas Hendon he would just play. I think we talk about all the time. Joe, you just got to go play. Just play football. You've been doing this since you were 6 years old, 5, 6 years old. Just go play. If it's not there, go to the next guy. If he's not there, run. You know what I mean? Just play. And that's what he's got to improve in.
Yeah, because a guy that can run the ball 21.3 miles per hour at 6'5", 240, and I'm going, where has this been? I don't understand. Right? It's like if I could run that fast and have that arm, and if he wants to go first round in the draft, if he could run too, that's what they want in the NFL. That's what they'll pay big money for a guy that's got legs and that big arm. Because, I mean, they took Anthony Richardson in the 4th pick, and that guy does not have the arm that Joe Milton's got. No. He just does not.
Nobody does.
But he is one of the greatest runners that I've ever seen in my life. I mean, some of the things that he did was incredible. And that just obviously the people that make the decisions in the NFL were like, oh my gosh, maybe we can turn this guy into the next Mahomes or something,
Yeah, man.
I don't know if that'll happen.
Joe has every opportunity to be that same type of pick. And he just, again, he just has to go out there and just ball. Don't overthink it. Just go out there and ball. If he plays backyard football, man, I really think that he could maybe work himself back into the Heisman race. Because, like you said, Jay, 6'5", 240 pounds, you can throw the ball 95 yards. You run 21 miles an hour. I mean, how are you supposed to stop that,
That's what I'm thinking.
There's nothing you can do to stop it.
When he ran that 80-yard pat, when he ran that 81 yards, I was like, where has this – the safeties had the angle on him. Yeah. And those guys are 170, 175, and they're not slow. Yeah. I don't care UTSA or not. That's not a bad football team. And they've won a lot of ball games the last 2 years. They had decent safeties back there, and they're fast. And they couldn't catch him. And I thought for sure they would run him down. And Bull, you made a great point in one of your videos. I saw you were talking about Brew McCoy made the key block. And a lot of people don't realize how key Brew is with downfield blocking and all the things that he did, especially for the sideline passes. You throw to the little quick wide receiver, and Brew's over there at 225 pounds, basically a tight end blocking another cornerback, and now that guy's loose. And we're going to miss that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we're going to miss Brew a lot more than what we realize right now. I hope that I'm wrong on this, but again, what I'm seeing is probably going to end up happening is teams are going to take away our run game and make us win one-on-one matchups. They're going to take away all the little short stuff, and they're going to make us prove that Joe Milton can make a good throw and that we've got some physical wide receivers that can make 50-50 catches. Obviously, with Brew being out, we're down one. But I think that Squirrel White is a guy who can do it. I think Keaton can do it. I think that we've got a lot of guys that are capable of doing it, but we're going to be tested. And, we're going to have to probably switch up a few things for sure, because without Brew, he was an excellent blocker. We still have guys who can block relatively well, but I mean, nobody's going to be like Brew. Brew was just an absolute and total dog.
Yeah. We're gonna miss the heck out of Brew, man. We talked about him. He was probably my favorite player on the whole roster. Like,
Yeah.
if you could watch him every play. So I have a 6-year-old son who plays football. He's a wide receiver. Whenever I want to show him how to block, I go show him Brew. I pick any play and say, go watch Brew on this play. He's gonna do it perfect every time. His effort. You talk about the ultimate teammate, the ultimate guy that you would love to play with. It's Brew McCoy, man. And like some of the things he did was kind of unquantifiable. Like, when he trucked that guy for Florida, it was like a 6 or 7 yard gain.
Yeah.
But you go truck somebody like that, I mean, that gets the team going, gives you juice, gives you energy. He had those plays every single game, and so we're gonna miss that element. But like you were saying, Bull, the kind of the 50-50 balls. Who's going to be that next guy that can make those tough catches like that? That's what we have to wait and see. Now, the caveat to that is we didn't really use Brew like we should have. We talked about that as well. Is he was underutilized. He should be getting 10, 15 targets a game, but he wasn't. So he was underutilized. So part of me says, as much as we're going to miss him, we may not miss him that much because we didn't really use him like we should have. But I think as we get into tougher competition, we are going to need somebody to make those catches. And we haven't really seen anybody do that for us this season. So we're going to need, is it going to be Dante Thornton, Squirrel White? Is he going to be the guy? Or Mel Keaton? Caleb Webb? Who's it going to be that steps up and really makes those tough catches? I think we're going to need to see that next week against A&M.
Yeah. A lot of people are talking about Dante Thornton and Caleb Webb. And I'm hearing good things about Webb. Dante, I thought he was going to come in here and kind of ball out a little bit. What's y'all's opinion on Dante Thornton?
Well, I mean, he's got all of the physical tools. It looks like to me maybe coming down to the SEC and playing in this conference with, the way that everyone knows you everywhere that you go on and off the field. You walk into class, it's probably getting hounded. It just, like they say, it just means more. So I think that those bright lights have kind of got to him to start things off. But I feel like at this point, he should be settling in, should be kind of like used to it. And once he settles in, I think that he can be a very, I think he can be a great option, especially, on those deeper routes, on those, intermediate middle type routes. I think that he can add a lot to this team, but he just needs to kind of settle in. To me, it looks like it's a whole lot of nerves. P, what you think?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he's got all the physical tools, 6'5", 215. I think he got clocked at like 23 miles an hour last season, so he's even faster than Milton. I mean, he's super fast. But like you said, but kind of the bright lights, maybe nerves, but he can do so much more. But I think back to Jalen Hyatt, you look at him in 2021, didn't really do much. And all of a sudden, 2022, he burst onto the scene. So is Thornton going to be a guy that takes him a full year to get going in Heupel's system, or can he pick it up? I feel like that catch against Florida maybe kind of was going to get him going, and then I think he got hurt, didn't play. He played against UTSA, I believe. But I don't know. He's got to get going. You know what? I think he's close. I think with Brew being out, he'll get more targets. But I still believe in him. I'm gonna give him a couple more weeks to kind of see before I call him a bust.
Okay, that's reasonable because he's actually just a sophomore, right? He's only played 1 year. He played at Oregon as a freshman, I believe, and he caught like 200 yards worth of passes. And he was a top 60 recruit. So, I mean, he was kind of a big deal when he went to Oregon. And he didn't play badly there. So, we'll see how this plays out. I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about Texas A&M next week. We're at 33 minutes. How long did y'all would like you to stay? Because y'all are great guests, man. We can, we can go the full hour if you like.
Thank you.
It's just up to you. I know y'all have got family and everything else, but what are y'all comfortable doing?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, great. That's perfect because I've got several things like A&M to talk about, and it's really nice to have former players on. This is kind of a treat, and I think all the viewers are enjoying it too. Obviously, I can see that. Let's talk about A&M. Now, they lost their 5-star quarterback to a broken bone in his foot. He's out for the season, and that was Connor Wegman, and I think he was coming along beautifully. I think he was going to be a fine player. Now, they've gone with Max Johnson, who's Brad Johnson's son, who, obviously NFL quarterback, and he was a 4-star transfer out of LSU, and he's playing okay. He got thrust in there and went 17 for 28. I believe that was against Arkansas for 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he played okay. We'll see. Now he's got to play against Alabama at Texas A&M College Station, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Yeah. And so we're going to see a lot this weekend from him. What do you think about our matching up against Texas A&M? Because they got a lot of really good athletes. I mean, it'll be as good as anybody we play.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that Texas A&M is going to be our toughest test the entire season. Just like because, like you said, they've got a lot of great players. There's a ton of talent everywhere. But then I also think that they match up well with what we like to do. We talked about Florida being a big matchup problem for us. We talked about what Spencer Rattler could do to us and kind of, be a matchup issue. I think that Texas A&M and, the way that Johnson plays is a mix of both of those at their highest levels. So the one good thing that I take from, last week's game is that we played well against that type of an offense. Obviously, South Carolina's offensive line is not what the Aggies is. So we have to get a lot of pressure on that on Johnson, because if we don't, he's very accurate. He's a very accurate passer without pressure. And I don't know how we're going to manufacture it if we're just going to try to bring four, but I would recommend blitzing. I recommend blitzing on probably 60 to 70% of our plays and just kind of, forcing him to hit open people with pressure. That's one of the things that I think that that's a way for us to win. And then, as far as our offense versus their defense, they've got a good run defense on paper, but, they play with the 3-man line, which usually whenever you see that, it means that there's going to be some big running lanes. I think that we should be able to run well on them. But again, I think that we're going to have to be able to hit those one-on-one matchups down the field. And the question is, can we do that on a consistent basis? If we can do that and if we can get pressure, I think that we can win this game pretty big at home. P, what you think?
Yeah, you pretty much summed it up, man. I've gone back and forth on this game. When I first turned on the tape, I was like, man, I think we're in a whole lot of trouble. These guys got guys everywhere. The more I watched it, the more comfortable I kind of got, and feeling like we might run away with this game, honestly. You start with the quarterback, Max Johnson. I think he's more than capable, very accurate. Something I noticed with him, though, is he's not the most mobile guy, but I think kind of similar to Milton. If his first guy's not there, he kind of has a hard time at that point. So I think we can disguise our coverages and mix them up, kind of confuse him pre-snap. He may throw us a couple picks or take some bad sacks. But, he is definitely capable. So if we kind of give him time to throw, with their offense, with Petrino's offense, his scheme, he likes to run kind of some long developing routes where guys are going to be open down the field, but it takes that time to develop. So if we can get pressure on the quarterback, give him, no time to throw, kind of like we've done all season, I think that obviously plays to our favor and it's going to kind of handicap their offense. But I think to me, the biggest thing that their offense has is they have a bunch of skill guys, whether it's receiver with Anaya Smith, number 0, or, they got the running backs, number 2 and number 8. Both those guys can go. So we can't let those guys get in space. I think that's the biggest thing for this game is we've got to tackle well in space because these guys will make 1 or 2 guys miss and go to the house, in the blur. So got to tackle well in space, get downhill in the run game, make them as one-dimensional as possible. And then when we look at our offense versus their defense, I think they have a really, really good D-line. It seems like they have 7 or 8 guys they can rotate in. They all look like they're about 6'5", 300 pounds and, move pretty well. They're very good run defense. Now, their pass rush is not as good as you would expect it with those type of athletes up front. And their DBs aren't great either. So I do think the vertical passing game will be there. We'll have guys open. It's going to come down to Joe hitting those receivers. Something we talked about earlier, me and Bull, is, these guys are probably going to try to come up, stack the box, take away the run game first, and make us prove that we can pass it, make us prove we can put it over their heads. And so that's going to be huge. The first couple series of the game will kind of tell you to tell the tape. Number 1, can we move their D-line in the run game? Can we create holes? And number 2, when they come up and play press man, can we get it to those guys down the field and take advantage of that? So I feel confident about it, but, it's definitely a tall task for sure.
Yeah, they're coming into this. They're 4-1. They lost to Miami in that very first ball game, but they've won 4 straight and 2 SEC games. So they're sort of feeling themselves a little bit. They've got the new offensive coordinator and Bobby Petrino, and Jimbo was forced. I think he was kind of he wasn't happy to do it. And I've had some fun with him over that, needless to say.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, Petrino is a good offensive coordinator, and I think that was a very good move. My only concern was, could Jimbo allow his ego to get out of the way. This is a guy that's won national title and makes $10 million a year. It's and going to get $90 million no matter what happens. To allow somebody, because he loves calling the plays. If you've ever seen him, he had a booklet. And I mean, it was huge of all these plays. And I was going, these guys are 18, 19, 20 years old. You've been doing this for 30 years, and you bring out this booklet of plays that you've worked on for literally 30 years, and you think they're going to, okay, we're on the same page. No, you cannot sit there and overwhelm young athletes that are going that fast in a hostile environment. You've got to make it to where, hey, man, I can handle this. Yeah. And then their confidence builds. I think Jimbo's was so complicated that they were losing their confidence and they couldn't score. And I'm a big believer in that success builds confidence. And I think that's one of the things Coach Heupel does beautifully. Yeah. I know just from golf, when I make a birdie, I get up on the next hole, man, I feel so good. When I make a bogey, I'm down. And I think success really breeds confidence, and you've got to have it on that field. And I don't know if I don't want Alabama to win ever, but I don't want A&M coming in thinking, hey, we can win the West now. We got the West. I don't want that either.
Absolutely.
What do y'all think about that?
Yeah, well, so something else that I wanted to add to your point about getting some confidence. I think that we can have a lot of success against the Aggie secondary. Once you get past that first level, I mean, the second level with their backers, they're just like, to me, but their secondary is not great. So, cornerbacks, safeties, they're not great. We can actually win those matchups. So I think that we can have some confidence coming out of this game because I think that we can win those one-on-one matchups. But as far as who I want to win that one, I definitely would rather see Bama. Kind of to your point, I don't want Texas A&M coming into Neyland with too much swag. And, I also think that Alabama, if they lose, they're more likely to come back with a vengeance. I think if Texas A&M loses, they're more likely to kind of be down. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think that it just works better for us. And then if I'm not mistaken, Pete, I think Bama's got a bye, right? Or Jay, do you know? I think Bama has a bye after this game. Leading
I have not checked that. I have not checked.
No. Can be. Oh yeah, I think that they do.
I think they do. Yeah, works out that way. Yeah, but I agree with what you said though, man. I think we want Bama to win this game. I mean, really, all I want to see is it be a hard fought game. I want to see A&M exert everything they got, pour everything into this game, and come into it next week kind of deflated and just kind of in a letdown spot, so to speak. But I think this is a perfect spot for us. We get to watch our next two opponents play. When we get a bye, we get to relax, kind of rest up, game plan, scheme. But we're really going to see who A&M is when they go play Bama. We'll get to learn more about them, learn more about Max Johnson, learn more about that offense, and see if Bama can run the ball. That's what Bama's going to try to do. Can they have success against that front? That front of A&M. So it's going to be a dogfight, I think. But I think Bama's going to probably pull away with this one, just because Saban's a better coach than Jimbo, in my opinion. So I think they'll run away with this.
Well, I love a Heupel team after a bye week. And especially at home, I love that. I like Joe Milton having that extra week. I believe, Bull, you mentioned that. When he has more time, he just seems to be more prepared, and he just gets out there. He's more comfortable, more confident. And I know when Heupel gets an extra week to scheme and do all the things he wants to do offensively, it makes a big deal. And, of course, the energy coming out of Neyland this weekend or next weekend will be monstrous because I think Texas A&M is a big deal to the Vols fans. For whatever reason, they just maybe because we hardly ever play them, it'll be exciting. The crowd's going to be going crazy. I wish it was 7:00. That would be perfect. But 3:30 is fine. Just not a noon. I don't like noon.
I don't like those either, man. We don't practice early. Well, you know what? Do we practice early?
We do practice early, but here it's all about the crowd because the crowd has not had time to get properly juiced up. If you know what I mean.
You're exactly right.
When 7:00 comes around, and I think that's one of the reasons we lost to South Carolina last year was not only did they outplay us, it was 7:00 at night. ESPN was there. they were like, it was their biggest, like, look, everybody's thinking we're a joke. This is our one chance to really shine. And then dadgum Spencer Radler decided, I'm a 5-star and I'm going to show you that I'm a 5-star. I think he has played as well as anybody since that game in the SEC up until last Saturday.
And,
exactly.
Exactly.
Retribution.
Yeah.
Hey,
but to your point on that.
Excuse me. Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me for just 2 moments.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, but to your point on that, Coach Day, I feel like Coach Heupel's teams, for some reason, we're a different team on the road as opposed to at home. You look at our loss against Georgia last season, and then obviously loss against South Carolina. We have Bama. We play them at home last year. It goes very well. For whatever reason, on the road seems to give this team problems. So that's a big one, not to get too far ahead, but that's a big one in 2 weeks when we go to Tuscaloosa to see if we can kind of get over that, those road nightmares we've been having kind of under Heupel's tenure so far.
That is going to be a very tough ball game. I'm hoping it's not a night game. I don't know. I don't think they've announced the time yet on that.
I don't think so. It'll probably be a 3:30 kickoff, probably the game of the week.
That's going to be a grudge match of grudge matches for them because they're very angry with us. I can go ahead and tell you. I've watched some of the Alabama YouTubers, and they have that game circled, and it's
I mean, heck, that was our first win in 15 years. You guys are pissed off for what?
Oh yeah, they feel like we cost them a national title chance. Is what they feel like.
Well, hey, that's how we felt about South Carolina. They cost us a national title chance too. So I guess I feel the pain there.
Yeah, and it's just kind of is what it is. I'm sure they'll be beyond excited to see us. That's the one game that I'm the most concerned about of the whole season is Bama at Tuscaloosa. Not as much as I was 6 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago because they're not really gelling like I was expecting them to do. I thought they might, but we'll see. And then the Georgia has been really interesting to watch because Todd Monken is not their offensive coordinator anymore. And I really thought when he left, I was like, that guy is really good. The best offensive coordinator they probably ever had. And they brought in Bobo, who's okay. There's nothing wrong with Bobo, but he's not Todd Monken. And you'll notice they're struggling offensively.
Yep, they are. Yeah, we can't wait for November 18th around here. We can't wait for that.
We could beat them. We could absolutely beat Georgia. I feel better about the Alabama game. If it wasn't at Tuscaloosa, I would feel much better about it. That's the one concern I have. I think that's the only thing. That's the one game they're probably going to be the most excited about is to play us because of the grudge and the revenge. And I'm a big believer in that. Now, not everybody is, but I believe in revenge games that matter. I just think the energy level that a football player has to come out with, and then that crowd, I feel like it lifts them up and that they can play at a level they didn't even know they could play at because energy and excitement, especially on defense, it's like they're just flying around with their hair on fire. And I'm going, where is this when we're on the road? And then you see Florida, they go on the road and they're just like, what's happening?
Right.
What is the deal? Now, you guys have both played. How important is the crowd?
Well, so, all right. Me personally, that kind of, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't bother me because I don't hear it anyway. So I just kind of like tune it out. The only time that you hear it is when you're like warming up. You know, people, like if you're playing on the road, fans will yell and heckle at you and stuff. But outside of that, whenever it's game time, I don't really hear nothing. I'm just zoned in. But we also played in a different, it's a little bit different now. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like stuff like that really gets to these kids. And I mean, it probably gets to the average person. So I don't know, P. I mean, what do you think about it?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, I played at Vandy, so we didn't have much of a crowd. I will say when Franklin was there, we would sell out, which is like 40,000. So, I mean, it kind of did give you a little juice. Like you said, pregame, you notice the crowd. But for me, I'm the type of guy, I like going on the road to those hostile environments. I like when everybody's booing me when I come out, when they're heckling me like that. That gets me going. So everybody's wired differently. But I do think for the majority of people, I think that kind of having that crowd behind you, it does juice them up a little bit. And definitely for our team, it seems to definitely be a factor for our guys.
Well, I can't explain the Florida Gators. I just can't. I've never seen a team that dramatically different between the swamp and being away. It's almost shocking to me. how different that team plays, because the team we played down there, their hair was on fire the entire game. They were going nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a totally different team than you saw the next week against Charlotte, who almost gave them a game. And then they go to Kentucky and they absolutely get run up and down the field like a rented mule. And I'm going, what is happening?
Yeah, they always play their best game of the season against us, I feel like. I mean, no matter what, they just play us the hardest every year.
Us, and then I mean sometimes Georgia,
Yeah,
sometimes they'll give Georgia a pretty good game. I don't think that Florida is very good, and I don't think that they've won an SEC game on the road since Napier's been there, have they?
They're 0-8 against the SEC East outside of the Swamp. 0-8.
That's crazy.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
Yeah.
Including, look, they played Vandy beat them, and Vandy beat Kentucky and Florida last year. They beat them both. Which
man,
was just,
listen, where's the Florida Vandy game at tomorrow?
It's at Florida. It's at the Swamp.
Oh, it is in the Swamp. I was about to say, watch out for Vandy because I mean, Florida. I'm not impressed with them. That's a terrible team. That's a game that we're gonna look back at and say, how in the world did we lose to them? I mean, it makes you sick.
It crushed me. It hurt me so bad because I look, y'all, if you know my channel, I talk some smack about Florida. So it hurt me the most because I'm the one that I swear I think it hurt me the most of anybody in the state of Tennessee because it's all about Steve Spurrier for me. He cost us 2 national titles, and he cost Peyton Manning a dadgum Heisman
Trophy, yeah.
And it's just I'm still upset about it to this day.
Yeah.
Were y'all even born?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
man. Listen, I used to hate Florida so much back, in the former era, but now I don't hate them as much just because Spurrier left. It was really more Spurrier, I think, that I really hated, and now I hate Georgia like how you hate Florida. I mean, we can't stand Georgia.
Oh yeah, and we all know it's sports hatred. It's not a real thing, but it's right. It's the team. It's the team I love to hate. And I would play golf with Steve Spurrier in a heartbeat. I think he and I would get along great, but I would never like him. I would never like him. There's just no way. But I'd love to play golf with him and listen to his stories and everything. We got over 200 people in here, guys. And they're loving
Hey, y'all.
What's up, everybody?
Absolutely. And if y'all are just tuning in, this is a Bluechip breakdown. We're having a great time. These guys are super knowledgeable. I didn't realize you had both played college ball. And that's been very interesting. We've talked about all kinds of stuff tonight. It's been incredibly interesting. And like I said, I always talk about my little bit of college experience, but again, it was not football. But I do understand stress really well, and I understand touch. Really, my game in golf, I was never a long ball striker, but I'm good around greens. I'm real good around the greens, little flip shots and little – wedge shots and stuff. That's really been my strength, and I understand touch. So you guys were talking about touch with Hendon. I would have been, and then Joe. See, Joe was the guy that would hit 320 down the middle, 350, whatever. I could never do that. I was the guy that can kind of, make little passes here and there. That's what I would do. But I've watched some stuff. I wish I had this short I could show. It showed what a professional football player can do to you, and it had a guy that was in good shape. And y'all maybe saw this short, and he hit him in the chest, and he wasn't 2 feet from him. And literally he went flying 5 feet. And I was just sitting there thinking, for us regular guys, I don't know how many plays I would last before I went out on a stretcher because you don't understand. I mean, the force that these guys can hit you with. And of course, y'all know you've been hit like that, but it just blows my mind that I don't know that people really understand how dangerous the game has become. And I'm so glad they've taken out the targeting. I actually like the targeting for the most part because it not only protects the guys getting hit, it protects the guys doing the hitting. You don't want to go in there like that. You go in there like that, man, your neck.
Yeah, not good at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I know for us growing up, there was whenever we first started playing, there was no targeting. And we've seen some bad injuries. I've seen people break their necks, break their backs. And it's most definitely dangerous, especially now because the players are a lot bigger, stronger, and faster. I think that they may have implemented that targeting rule when, was it Taylor Mays? Is that who it was? That he was a safety at USC.
Yeah,
that his name?
6'4", 230, 4'3".
Yeah, no, he was 6'4", 240. And he
Sheesh.
was running like a 4.2 40. I think that's when they changed because he was playing safety. And
Mm-hmm.
that big, that fast, you can literally kill somebody. Or you can, maybe, you can black yourself out. It's very dangerous. But to your point though, Jay, yeah, I'm really happy that the game is a lot safer than what it used to be, man.
Yeah,
For sure.
and kind of to the point we were making earlier about Anthony Richardson going early and Joe Milton having a chance to go early because of how good of athletes they are. You look at Patrick Mahomes, these guys, even Kyler Murray, these smaller quarterbacks that are athletic, because you can't hit the quarterback anymore. You can't really hit like you used to be able to. So
Yeah.
there's actually a market for these guys now. So I think it's a good rule change. Makes it safer for everybody. So
For
Well,
sure.
the one thing you don't want to have happen is have your quarterback get knocked out as far as money is concerned. And I'm talking about TV, ratings, all that, because who wants to watch the Kansas City Chiefs without Mahomes? Who's going to
Nobody.
watch that ball game?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
They're
Exactly
not going
right,
to.
man.
It really hurts, and it hurts you in college too. It does not as much, but it's getting there. It's getting
Well,
there.
yeah, well, so everyone's talking about how the SEC is down this season. Part of that is because quarterback play is not what it was in the past few seasons. I mean, we've lost we lost 3, 4, 5 really good quarterbacks. So I mean, you're exactly right, Jay. It just changes the entire game if you don't have a good guy back there, slinging around sometimes.
Okay. Well, we've got about 4 minutes left to go to an hour, and that's usually what I do on these. And I appreciate y'all staying for the whole hour, by the way.
Of course.
I just thought
Appreciate you having us.
this has been terrific, and I hope everybody has enjoyed listening to these two guys because, I mean, normally it's been really good. Let's just put it that way. All right.
Jay.
But let's talk a little bit about Nico. I want to talk a little bit because y'all have a good understanding of this. Do you think that he should be out there for some more important, live reps, or do you think he's a little too skinny and that he might get hurt and they're just protecting him? What do you think the whole deal is with Nico, or do you just think it's a coincidence that it just really hasn't worked out to where he could be out there very much?
So number one, he's definitely not too skinny. If you look back, and we were just talking about, if you look back whenever Peyton played, I think he may have played at like 185, 190 or something like that.
There's a freshman.
Yeah, right. And I mean, and that was back when they tried to hurt the quarterback. So now that the quarterback, they pretty much keep guys off of the quarterback. That has nothing to do with it. I know people keep saying that. You can also tell that he's really strong too. He may be thin, but he's really strong, so he's fine there. I think that we missed that window early in the season to be able to put him out there because I'm not sure that you want to try to throw him out there right now. We've got a lot of tough games. Probably not the best time to try and do it now, but if we get up early, I think maybe we, definitely let's throw him out there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't wait to see him. I just thought, like you said, Bull, like we kind of missed our window. We should have got him in against Austin P, but that was a closer game than it should have been. UTSA should have got him in earlier, but we kind of let those guys come back in third quarter. But I think he's a guy. I think once he plays, I think that's part of the reason why Coach don't put him out there yet, because I think once we see enough of him in action, I just feel like we're going to fall in love with him, man. I think he's such a natural football player. Like we talk about Joe being a baller. I think Nico does that so naturally. I'm just a few plays we've seen of him. You just see how effortlessly he gets out of the pocket, can make throws. Even if guys are dropping, he's putting it on the money. He's just a natural baller. So I think, if they were to have a package or two for him here and there, I think that he would do so well that people would be wanting him to play. But I don't think he's ready to have a full game yet. I think Joe's more ready. So, we just got to be patient, wait for him. But when he does play, I think he'll be as advertised.
All right.
Absolutely.
I got to ask you this.
Yep.
And again, y'all being former players, Joe came out in that UTSA game when he'd hurt his knee, and it looked like Nico was going in, and Joe was like, whoa, hold my beer. Hold my beer. You're not going in there, young man.
Yeah.
That is my position. Last time I got sat on the bench over a little ankle issue, I sat for 2 years. Do you think that was his motivation? And if so, I can certainly understand it.
I think so.
I think that was 1,000% what he was thinking because I did just like P just said. Yeah. I think that Nico is ready, and I think that if he came in, and I'm not trying to start nothing by saying this, but I do think that this offense would look a lot different with him in there. So, and I'm pretty sure that Joe understands that too. So it's like, nah, I'm gonna go out there even if my knee is, broken.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm going back out there.
Yeah, I know we're getting hyped. We saw Nico warming up. We were getting hyped. But then Joe went out there. We were kind of like, oh. But, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I saw him when he came out of that little tent, and he came over there, and I saw Nico with the helmet on, and he was like, no.
Here I come.
Totally understand that. When you sat for 2 years, 2 years, and this is your one shot, man, you notice when he got up and he bounced. He was like, hey, now I'm good. Don't everybody freak out now.
Yeah.
I would have done the exact same thing. I'll go ahead and tell you, you'd have had to drug me off that field, because that starting position at the University of Tennessee, he is loving it, and I don't blame him one bit. I mean, he's the big guy on campus, and he's been working towards it for years, and this is his opportunity to shine, to get in the first, second, third round of the NFL draft. And here's this 5-star sitting over here that he's seen in practice, and he's probably seen a lot of passes this guy's thrown and go, I don't know. Maybe I ought to better hold on to this thing.
And then too, man, Nico looks like he really wants to get in. And that's something else that you have to absolutely love, is that he's not scared of those moments, So looking forward to him. And I wish Joe all the best. I want for him to succeed at the highest level. So hopefully, we can give him more of an opportunity to, hit some of those deep passes, and we can be off to the races for the rest of the season.
Cool beans. All right. Well, we've hit our hour, and I've already told the guys, I'd be happy to come on their show if they ever want me to. And I'm definitely going to invite them back onto my show, because this was really terrific. I enjoyed this thoroughly. Every question I had, y'all had great answers, man. So I know I came into this a little bit unprepared, honestly. If I have you here again, I will be more prepared. I just didn't realize y'all had played to that level. And I forgot to ask you about James Franklin. Dagnabbit, Pete. Tell me, before you go, how good a coach is James Franklin?
So James Franklin, man, so he's not a great X and O guy. Like, he's not a guy that's going to get on chalkboard and draw it up. But what he does a great job of is he relates to his players so well. He was a guy I was doing the whole team would run through a wall for him. Like, he really gets you to buy into it. I think he was a psych major in college, so maybe he Jedi mind tricks or whatever, but he really gets guys bought in. He did not play, man. It was full effort every play. He was super strict about off the field stuff. Like, you got to be 10 minutes early to meetings. You can't miss class. We had a thing called training on, training off, which if training's on, that means you can't drink, you can't go out, nothing like that. Training was pretty much always on. The only time it was off was Saturday night if we won the game. If we lost, it was still on. So he was super strict, and I think that's why he had so much success at Vandy, because we were like a smaller school, and so we were just willing to do whatever anybody told us. But when we went to Penn State, he kind of had to change the way he operated to get a bigger program to buy into it. But I mean, he's a great dude, man. My parents could call him, he'd answer the phone. Like, he's a great guy, and I have respect for him.
Okay, well, that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, hey, and then Jay, let me just tell this story really, really quickly. So, whenever Coach Franklin came to have dinner with us to CP, my nephew Bray, who y'all see on the show, I told y'all that he was singing Rocky Top before he could even talk. So Coach Franklin comes in, and at this time, Bray is maybe like 2, and he's Coach Franklin picks up Bray. And Bray starts singing Rocky Top, and he goes, woo! And Coach Franklin didn't know what he was singing, but he goes, woo! With him. So, that's how Braylon started off, man.
Nice. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, guys, I really appreciate you being on the show. Folks, I know y'all have enjoyed it, because I've read the comments, and it's just been nothing but super positive comments. And anyway, we're going to end this thing, but I really appreciate the guys coming onto the show, and like I said, hopefully we'll have some more shows with these fellows, and because this was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. And I'm going to end the stream right now, and thanks again for everybody showing up.
All right, appreciate you guys. Peace.